You're listening to the Living Mandala podcast. Hopping on before the episode with Rachel Ruth Tate. Once again, we start off this episode in the coffee shop, but as you'll hear within just a few minutes, we make our way to a much quieter location. So this episode, the Pluto episode, and the closing episode are in this secondary location. So I say all of this because it's a little bit disruptive. So apologies again. Hope you enjoy this episode. Of course, be sure to stick around after the bell. And I'll be talking about where all of the Neptunian places of the house and home and your life, as it manifests in your living environment. So I hope you enjoy this latest and greatest episode of the Living Mandala podcast. All right, you're listening to the Living Mandala podcast. My name is Zara.
Yeah.
I just love my podcast music. This bell. So I'm joined by Rachel Ruth Tate, and the Living Mandala of the Planets series continues. Again, we're at a coffee shop in Waco, beautiful Waco. I had no idea Waco was so lovely. So kudos to all the good work you're doing here and all the good work that clearly so many people are doing. This coffee shop, what's it called again?
Dichotomy.
Yeah, it's very cool. Like if you're traveling on I-35 between, Austin and Dallas, I highly recommend a little detour into Waco. Check out Dichotomy. It's very cool.
Worth it.
Totally worth it. All right, so we're on Neptune. Now, Neptune is, again, one of these transpersonal planets. It takes 165 years to orbit the sun. So we only see one of these in our lifetime.
We don't even see one.
That's what I mean. We don't even see one.
Yeah.
It keeps moving.
Yeah.
It's in each sign approximately 14 years, más o menos. It was discovered in 1846 by telescope. And of course, moving on in the mythology, I've got some stuff written here, but I'm hoping you can speak more clearly off the cuff about Neptune.
So Neptune is one of the Titans, and he is the god of the sea. And Neptune, Poseidon, these two things, you can use those names relatively interchangeably. But I think that Neptune is one of the most...
No.
Okay. Should we change locations?
Yeah, I think we should.
Yeah. I think there's
too much chaos. Okay, wow, we're back. And we have changed locations. We could make an argument that we could have done the other two episodes, Saturn and Uranus here, but there's something like really perfect about making this switch in the middle of the Neptune episode for some reason. It works for me. So here we are. We're at the co-working space next door to the super cool coffee shop Dichotomy. So again, highly recommend Dichotomy if you come through Waco. But we are next door in a really awesome co-working space. So thank you, Rachel, for your just connections here and willingness to host me in this very cool co-working space that you are a member of. What's the co-working space called?
25 North.
Okay,
They have
25
locations in cities around the country, cities that are adjacent to major markets, but not inside of major markets.
I see. Oh, okay, cool. All right, so we're picking up with Neptune. So we were just talking about the mythology of Neptune, and Roman mythology, Neptune's the god of the sea, but we've also got Poseidon, that's the Greek. You were just saying that, we can kind of use those two terms interchangeably as people do for all sorts of things with the Greeks and Romans.
The thing that I think is the most important about Neptune's mythology, though, is Neptune's role in the birth of Aphrodite. So she is born from the sea, of the sea foam, right? And the idea is that she comes to be, and skipping ahead slightly, but Neptune is given modern astrology, rulership of Pisces. Pisces being the mutable water sign, really representative of the ocean. And it is where Venus exalts. Venus exalts in Pisces. So the idea that she is born from the sea, born of the foam, it's really indicative to me of the value, very Venusian thing, the value of exploring consciousness. Neptune is the planet which we can grant the rulership over the ocean of potential awareness. And so in traditional Hellenistic astrology, Neptune is not mentioned. But modern astrologers and those of us who have incorporated Neptune into our practice can tell you that Neptune is the planet which governs our expansion of awareness. It governs all potential states of consciousness. So any awareness that can be gleaned from plant medicine or from intense experiences, from changing states or environments. And that makes Neptune as well a very primary planet in the dream state and the process of understanding ourselves through that subconscious and unconscious mind.
Right. I think of Neptune being on a scale of hazy, foggy one end and dreamy, magical on the other end. And it kind of like if there was any polarity available within the murkiness of Neptune and the the dreamy quality of Neptune, that it would be that, so it's our self relationship with that energetic vibration of Neptune, again, hazy, foggy, delusional on one end and dreamy and magical, literally magical on the other end. While we were transitioning from the coffee shop to the co-working space, we were having an interesting conversation in the hallway. And as we were unpacking our bags, the conversation, we should have recorded it, but we could have. But, we were talking about, how Neptune parks itself in a sign for a good period of time, 14 some odd years per sign, taking 165 years to orbit the sun, that, like Uranus, Neptune, and then of course Pluto, which we're getting to in the next episode, that these are more generational, that you can really look to like large swaths of people. And share a little bit about what you were saying, about the generational quality of Neptune.
So Neptune travels quite slowly, and it travels with and around different outer planets. And we can often see these combinations of Uranus, Neptune, and Pluto in different generations and almost help identify the personality, the purpose, and then the expression of that generation as a cohort or as a whole. And the example I was using is those of us born, late 80s, early 90s, have Saturn, Neptune, and Uranus all in Capricorn. And that generation, middle of that generation, is often considered to be the echo boom of the baby boomers. And so there are many of us, we share completely different value sets than our parents. And we are disrupting the world monetarily. And I say we are because the greatest transition or the exchange of wealth that's ever going to happen is from the baby boom to the echo boom. Now, the baby boom, they're still alive, right, for the most part. But as they're passing away, all of their resources, which they have so diligently gathered, will be passed on to this generation, which has a completely different structure of values and different set of experiences and states of awareness. Like, how popular is ayahuasca these days?
Right.
This generation is all about the experience of states of awareness and potential forms of consciousness, not just through plant medicine ceremonies, but through magical, mystical experiences of many kinds, and specifically those which can be tangibly represented. Like extreme hikes, right? Or like if you're on the top of Everest, or if you're in one of those flying suits, like that's a very physical experience of a completely different state of being and awareness. And it's interesting now too, kind of to take this a little further into the present where we are, because we've had Neptune in Pisces for about the last 12, 13 years. It's been there for quite some time. And like I mentioned earlier, Neptune is given modern rulership of Pisces. And there have been some very strange, state-changing, world-changing, awareness-changing, even spiritually challenging things that have happened to the collective over that period of time. We're in a completely different headspace now, post-pandemic, than we were 14 years ago. But Neptune is going to be traveling with Saturn for about the next 6 years, right? Saturn just entered Pisces. And I say just, March of this past year entered Pisces. But as Saturn transitions into Aries, Neptune will transition with it too. So we have about 6 years of this Saturn-Neptune combination. I think a lot of us are feeling the weight of the paradigm shifts. There is an issue with depression, with anxiety, with a lot of different people collectively these days. And we are seeking out very different forms of treatment, like ketamine, like even in psychology, I've been hearing that a lot of people are trying to treat depression with beauty.
Ooh.
Natural beauty. Like, all right, you're depressed, go look at a sunset.
Yes.
This rose.
Yes, that resonates with me.
And to me, that's such a Neptune, Saturn, and Pisces thing. It's like, how do we treat this heaviness? Obviously, with the exaltation ruler of Pisces, which is Venus. Like, let us expand or change our frame of awareness by augmenting it with these lovely, like sort of objectively lovely things.
Wow. And I'm in the generation, ahead of you. I'm older, not much older, but I'm definitely older than you. And my natal Neptune is Sagittarius. And so when you just said that thing about beauty, just this hopeless optimist in me, dreamy optimist, just like that just lit me up. So thank you.
I love the Neptune in Sagittarius people. Y'all are so fun.
Thank you.
You're the original psychonauts and explorers who are like, let's just go to Tibet.
Let's see what happens.
We have no phones, no cell phone, no internet. Let's just go.
And if you knew me better, you would know that's so me. I'm saying so me. Loving it. Okay, so modern ruler of Pisces, and modern sort of association with the crown chakra, moving down the chart of correspondences here. Neptune is associated with these spiritual and transcendent qualities. And of course, the crown chakra, there's a whole episode earlier in the Chakras of the House series on the Living Mandala podcast about the crown chakra with Dr. Barnard. But, this is the center of spiritual connection and higher consciousness. You're talking about the psychonaut behavior and the different ceremonies and this, that, and the other. That all vibrates and resonates with this crown chakra concept.
I also think it is so wonderful that we think about the crown as having to deal with Neptune because of that dream state association, right? We dream in the mind, and the mind is one of the most complex things ever. So complex, we know more about the surface of the moon than the nature of the mind.
Ouch. Yes. In terms of traditional alchemy, there isn't a metal, on the original sort of list of metals and chakras and planets, because Neptune wasn't in the conversation, as we like to say. But there is Neptunian. This is number 93 on the periodic table. Again, its presence predicted, but first synthesized for real in 1940. It's too unstable to stand alone. So it exists extremely temporarily and then immediately decays. Which is, that elusive Neptunian quality anyway.
Oh, I think it's perfect. People will notice, if you are listening to the series through and through, you will notice the meat of our conversation on Neptune is so much more sort of like swirling and like probably a little all over the place. I'm amazed that we are actually sticking to structure, because Neptune can totally distract and diffuse and nebulize, right? But it's so appropriate in that periodic table too, because uranium, boom, bombs. Neptunium can't even exist.
So elusive.
Plutonium, even more intense bombs. So like Neptune in the middle is like, no, we're just not even, we're ethereal. We're not even here.
Right. I mean, we had to change locations in the electron field today, during this recording of this very episode. So it is pretty associative, literally. The rune that I would put is Laguz. It symbolizes water, emotions, intuition, but it's also still water. So it's that still potential of the dream state. That it's the float, right, in the dream state. There's no correspondence in the traditional tarot. But, again, if you're a listener, or Rachel, jump in. If you've got a tarot card that you would suggest, I'm sure there are actually a few. I'm quickly going through my mind.
I'm going to go with cups here. And we have to
go with cups.
But I even maybe think that like something like the Nine of Cups, something kind of abundant. But I feel like it could go either way. Maybe we go with three again, the Three of Cups.
Right.
Because we are always receiving this information by virtue of our senses and our experience, which is changing our state of consciousness. And the cups are associated with the water element, which Pisces is a water sign. But I also feel as if those states of consciousness cannot necessarily be sought out, even though Neptune and Sagittarius would be like, no, I can seek out different states of consciousness. But Neptune and Pisces would be like, well, some, though, are divinely given, and you aren't allowed to go, not even allowed. You are not, you're not the one who's going to go find it. It's going to find you.
Wow. Very good. Yeah. In terms of the yoga pose, talk to us about your suggestion for a yoga pose.
So, Sarvangasana, shoulder stand.
Yeah, I'm curious why you chose this.
Because of specifically the fact, I knew you were going to go with crown chakra, right? We have to with Neptune. But Sarvangasana, shoulder stand, is a very unusual pose. It's known as the queen of yoga poses. But essentially, imagine one lying on the ground and then lifting up the hips, supporting the lower back with the arms, and having the feet to the sky. So you are balancing on your shoulders. And the most advanced form of this pose, the hands are not even supporting the lower back. So
Right.
the arms are down at the sides, and the body is inverted, supported on the shoulders. It's a very unusual thing to do. Neptune is about that sort of strange and unusual, but it directs all of the blood toward the head.
Lovely.
And it is less intense than headstand, as in if one were to lose one's awareness, right? And in Neptune, in meditation, in dreams, we kind of transcend to another state. Shoulder stand is much more stable and easy to stay in order to access those ethereal states.
Very, very lovely association. I also like shoulder stand because of the constriction it can offer the throat. And when you sort of, constrict an area of the body and hold that for a period of time and then release it, there's a flood that happens. There's a flood of energy, a flood of blood, a flood of, release that happens. And that feels right when I think about the vibe of Neptune.
And Pisces itself rules both the feet, the ankles and the feet, and also the lymphatic system. And Sarvangasana is essentially the feet going toward the sky, so receiving through the feet. And then it is also really lovely for the lymphatic system in order to kind of create the opposite of our traditional motion, so those fluids get moving.
Yeah. In terms of a suggestion to connect with the energy of Neptune, I have down to start a dream journal. So, if you can make this part of your regular rhythm, this is something that I have really struggled with. I'm just going to be vulnerable here for a minute. I have rarely been able to start and keep a dream journal for some reason. I'm so disciplined in so many other ways, and I have such wild ass dreams. You would think like I would be all over it, but I struggle with this one. It's elusive to me to do it for some reason. But there is a really great book that I would recommend. It's called A Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming, Mastering the Art of Aeronautics, I think is how you pronounce the word. It's a book by this pair of three guys, Dylan Tukilo, Jared Zeisel, and Thomas Peisel. Anyway, look it up on Amazon, A Field Guide to Lucid Dreaming. It's an excellent, excellent resource to tap into tips and tricks on how to lucid dream, wake up in your dreams, therefore retain your dreams, gain some mastery and some, dare I say, control in your dreams, to fly, to do wonderful things like walk through walls and, really be a superhero. And then taking a dream study in tandem with reading this book. That would be my suggestion for connecting with the power and the vitality, really, vitality is such a weird word to use with Neptune, but there's a lot of vitality there in lucid dreaming.
I think if you were disciplined with a Neptunian practice, it wouldn't be Neptunian. It would be some more Saturnian. But I totally and completely agree with you. I have some notes in my phone that I have woken up from a very important dream. You know, when you have that feeling, you're like, I haven't sussed it all out yet, but this is super important. Writing it down and then coming back to it years later, often by accident, because they're so disorganized that I just happen upon the note. You read it again and you're like, oh, wow, that was clear and that was intense. And now I see how the whole trajectory of my life has changed after the time of this dream.
Right. So just a pro tip, take little notes in your phone, get a dedicated journal. I went through a whole exercise. I even got like this really cool journal. It had snakes all over it, and it was just beautiful, and had this nice pen, and I kept it next to my bed, and I just could not do it.
What's important will be written down.
Fair enough. I feel re-inspired anyway after talking about it. I don't like to tell people what to do without doing it myself. So that's why I'm being so bombastic about my lack of discipline with the dream journal. But highly recommend the experience. So anything else to say about Neptune?
Well, the next level after lucid dreaming is really astral projection. And I'm going to leave that there, but it's one of the reasons why lucid dreaming can be so fruitful. Because if you want a new state of consciousness, try astral projection.
Period. Mic drop. You're listening to the Living Mandala podcast. Hey there, it's me again. So thanks for sticking around after the bell. Wanted to chat for a little bit about where the Neptunian areas of the house and home are. So to start with, we mentioned a dream journal. So I would say one of the primary Neptunian places in the house would be your bedside table. Do you have what you need there? Do you have that dream journal and a pen ready to go? Do you have maybe some lip balm, some lavender oil, box of Kleenex? I don't know what you need by your bedside table, but is it ready to go for you as you navigate the nighttime dreamscape? Second place that I would point to in terms of Neptune might be, this is going to be a stretch maybe, but the medicine cabinet. When was the last time you sort of went through your medicine cabinet? Is everything sort of not expired in there? Do you have everything you need? Are we out of Advil or something like this? Is it time to organize, replenish, understand what all is in your medicine cabinet at this time? I know that occasionally over the years I've gotten ill for various reasons, and then, sort of realized like, oh, I've got these old funky pain pills that are expired or whatever. Go ahead and get rid of those. Dispose of those in the proper way. You don't want to go on a Neptunian adventure by taking expired pain pills, do you? Or do you? I don't know. This is very Neptunian of me to even talk about. So those are a couple of the places that I would point to in terms of where Neptune manifests in your living environment. You can think of other places. I would sure love to hear about it. Neptune is, by its very nature, a little bit elusive. And this, prompt for myself to think about the Neptunian areas of the house and home is also a little bit elusive, if that makes sense. So, if you've got other ideas, I'd love to hear about them. Either way, thanks so much for listening. This has been the Living Mandala podcast. Thanks so much.